Form the face of conservatism in our own time.
Wake Up Missouri.
We're not just going to hunt for drug dealers with the little fast boats and say, let's try to arrest them.
With Stephanie Bell, the Simmer News Team. And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
When Democrats like Gavin Newsom did say that these people are part of an authoritarian government, when the left-wing media lies about what they're doing, when they lie about who they're arresting, when they lie about the actual job of law enforcement, what they're doing is encouraging crazy people to go and commit violence. You don't have to agree with my immigration policies. You don't have to agree with Donald Trump's immigration policies. But if your political rhetoric encourages violence against our law enforcement, you can go straight to hell, and you have no place in the political conversation of the United States of America.
Well, there's J.D. Vance on fire yesterday, and just outside where that young Ukrainian woman was stabbed in Charlotte. But he was talking about the Dallas shooting incident at the ICE facility. One illegal alien was killed and 2 injured as indiscriminate firing into that facility. The glass covering the American flag and American flag were defaced. It was a tremendous scene when you look some of the interior there. And a guy using what looks like an old-fashioned, looks like 30-06 or 270 shells, marked anti-ice on one of the casings of the unfired shells was there. 29-year-old guy. And Stephanie Bell, what do you think?
Self-inflicted gun wound.
Yeah, and then he died himself. Well, I guess, does he call, as officers were approaching, so what do they call that now? Suicide by officer or something?
Yeah, suicide by cop.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. What a misnomer that is. So, and of course, the left-stream media saying, Stephanie, that the motive is still undetermined. I read an article by a guy who claims to have interviewed older friends of this guy, said that he gradually withdrew from society. Apparently he was rabidly involved in video games, thousands and thousands of hours on video games, according to one report, and just basically became socially isolated. That's the best that I can find on him. There's not a lot of other reporting on him. But of course, motive still undetermined. It's weird that you would put anti-ICE on there. I guess the University of Possibilities range from a crazed anti-ICE person to a false flag operation. One person called this guy a what was the word that they used? I've never heard of this. Maybe Drake knows what it is. Like an edgelord or something. Something that the humor is all.
I haven't heard that term in years, Randy.
What does it mean?
He's just edgy, trying to like
stirring things up.
Yeah, just doing things because no one else.
Well, that's what his friends from a few years ago said. He's 29 now, but apparently they had become unfriended because he was weird. He was out there. He was edgy, and they called him an edgelord, an online edgelord.
And I didn't read the entire story, but you said that he had thousands of hours on video games. Yeah. That's pretty common. If you game like every day after work, that's pretty common.
Well, I guess if you game 2 or 3 hours a day and there's 365 days in the year, take off for some weekends and travel and met 300, that's roughly 1,000 hours a week, a year, right? If you're on 3 hours a day.
Yeah, and also, I mean, it shows like, if you leave your console on overnight or if you do stuff like that. So it'll show that you're still playing the game.
You don't turn your console off?
I'm with Charlie on get married and have kids. One of my rules when I got married was no video games in the house.
But if you're a guy and you get married, stay off the console so much.
Yeah, that was one of my rules. We're not sitting around doing video games. We were talking
about that the other day. A lot of guys, married guys spend a lot of time on their consoles. It's an addiction, right? I mean, it's addiction. Yeah. But they also can introduce their kids to it and show them how to use it responsibly. It's another possibility there, right?
I still play my Nintendo games all the time.
Well, okay, my case is made. Now, moving on. Thank you, Drake. I like it when you validate my suppositions. That's very good. Thank you.
That's what I'm here for.
Well, I tell you. So, hey, later on we're going to be having some fun, though, because fall's in the air. There was a little bit of a humid, slight fog as I was getting out of the house.
Have you seen the forecast for this weekend?
No.
Next week.
Is it hot? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't look that far ahead.
And I think Governor Kehoe announced a drought yesterday.
Yeah?
It's yeah.
Well, okay, but fall will be here soon.
You hope. We're
going to be talking to Missouri Conservation about some goings-on there. And, of course, deer season, bow hunting season is already in swing. Started September 15th?
Yep.
I got to get out and try that too. I don't know. I like when the leaves start to fall and you can see a little further into the woods myself.
I'm looking at a high of 82 on Sunday.
Yeah, well, that's nice.
It's not 90,
We'll
I
take
guess.
You can enjoy
Take
good cycling weather as long as it's a little drier generally this time of year, so it's nice. The
Be good for the Mizzou homecoming parade Saturday morning.
Yep.
Probably be in the 70s when you guys are out there doing the play-by-play.
Yeah, harvest is ongoing, right, for everyone. So looks to be a lot of fun. Now, in case you on other news, this is important news, and this is going to create an interesting bit of debate. I think throughout the morning, I'm going to interested in to see how everyone feels about this. Our Wake Up family at 573-874-9390. So there's this in this covered walkway. We often see presidents walking with their aides, with their cabinet members, with dignitaries in this covered walkway with columns on the one side, a wall on the other. I guess it's just outside the Rose Garden. Is that right? Going from, is it the Oval Office to the main residence? I don't know. And there's the sort of the half circle windows, right, with the little rays of dividers in them above that wall on the interior of this walkway. The Trump administration has put in the Wall of Fame, the Presidential Walk of Fame, they call it, the Walk of Fame, on the West Wing colonnade. And as you walk down this, there's a portrait of every, well, it looks like actually a photograph, or maybe I guess for the very earliest presidents, it might be a portrait. I don't know. And there's Carter, and then of course there's Reagan and Bush one, and then Clinton and Bush W, and Obama, and Trump one, and then a photo of an auto pen. And then Trump, too, with his combative, I was just indicted, picture.
Highly inappropriate, but darn funny.
573-874-9390.
Elections have consequences.
573-874-9390. So I'll take that as a absolute full-throated endorsement, right? Good.
I mean, it's his house, right? It's the White House. Presidents get to do, I mean, he puts all sorts of weird stuff up in the Oval, and you get to decorate it. It's kind of part of winning.
Okay.
I mean, he's playing to the base.
Okay.
I'm not
But
offended.
the White House is the people's house. I mean, it's supposed to be the house of the people.
Sure.
Okay. I think it's just a little over the top. That's my opinion. 573-874-9390. And I'll bet many of our Wake Up family will side with your side. It's
like they usually do.
No, they will. That's right. Usually they do. That's right. Well, we know who's right. I know who to argue. Don't ever argue with Stephanie Bell. She likes to win. I don't know. I just think there comes a point where the gravitas of the office should overcome your penchant to playfully make a political point. And I think there is a time and a place for that.
But isn't that a statement that Trump respects the gravitas of the office because it was a disgrace that perhaps we had someone at the helm that wasn't actually in control?
Do we have solid evidence that that was the case in the first, months and maybe year of the presidency? I don't know. I thought he declined rapidly in the last 2 years. I don't know. I mean, 573-874-9390. How do you weigh in, Drake, on this?
I'm just going to side with Stephanie. I mean,
Okay. Good, predicted that.
on the winning side.
Yeah, the winning side. John?
I think of stuff like I remember when Gerald Ford was president and he put in an outdoor pool and everybody was up in arms. I think Teddy Roosevelt got in trouble for putting stuffed animal heads in the White House dining room. So, Trump and his weird sense of humor, I think, nothing new under the sun.
Well, it's not an existential threat to the United States of America, but I just think I talk to a lot of independents and I talk to a lot of Trump supporters in 20 and 24, and the vibes I'm hearing, ladies and gentlemen, are not maybe the same vibes that everyone in Trump world is hearing.
Now,
that's all I'm saying.
And I'm just going to ask you, are you more offended by a picture of the auto pin or more offended by the president who put dogs in the White House who bit people?
False choice.
Come on.
False choice.
Come on.
That's a stupid move. That's a reckless move.
What is? Putting the dogs in? Yeah.
I think politically, this is the kind of move that will certainly, and this is the political calculus they're making. It solidifies your base. It really galvanizes them, no doubt about it. It's like the more the better, pedal to the metal. I will say it again.
I don't know. I think
I will say it the day before the midterms. I will say it the day before everything. The people that you're galvanizing will not. You have to get more people to be able to be galvanized, because ultimately those are not the people that make the decisions. It's the independents that make the difference in the election.
I don't know. Anyone who has someone who is like in their older years, they kind of get to a place where they just give zero bleeps, right? Like they're just like, I'm tired of being nice about it. Like, I'm just going to say what I think. I'm going to do what I want. And I think I can respect that. And also, I mean, don't forget, he went through something super traumatic. We almost lost him, right?
True.
And so I think
So grace because of his PTSD.
no. I just think there's
Okay, Whoopi Goldberg.
That's sounding a little leftist there. It's like, well, he's been through a lot.
No,
come on.
It's just
he grew up without a daddy.
We knew that's what Trump.
No, he didn't.
And he said it on stage at the Kirk Memorial. Like, I hate my enemies. Like, that's the kind of person I am. And I think it's kind of refreshing that, like, you kind of know what you're going to get with Trump.
So, Alan, I love you. It's great we have Alan and people like Alan on it. We love Alan.
Because you think
Alan
he's
says,
agreeing
would
with
it be
you?
appropriate for the next president to put a photo of Trump and Epstein dancing together? Good one, Alan. I like that. Jared Robinson says this is the inside decor. Okay, picture. Terry says, Randy, I agree with you. As I'm retired from the Army, it was instilled in me from a young age in my entire Army career. We must respect the office, regardless of who occupies the office. So there's people on both sides of the fence. But it's a fun story. I don't think it's the end of the world. I think that will be seen in the background of a lot of those videos that we see, the news reports when you see a dignitary. So it'll be interesting to see if it gets changed, or maybe it's a one-time deal. I don't know. Maybe that's the case.
The Trump Epstein statue now is already gone from D.C. I didn't realize they'd taken it down already.
Remember when they put the signs on the lawn that is behind the reporters? All of the signs of the illegal aliens who had committed crimes. Now that I love. That's American. That's for the people. This is a little snarky, a little bit snarky, but we'll see.
Snarky's a good word, but good snarky.
Randy was complaining about offending the middle last October. Yeah, and Randy gets it wrong once in a while. I think, though, that those are the same people that said, they're telling me now they voted for Trump because the alternative was so onerous. But they get tired of what becomes a little bit of over the top Trump. That's what I'm hearing. Maybe I'm hearing the wrong people. The Daily DC Rundown when we come back.
You're listening to Wake Up Missouri.
was opened fire upon by a violent left-wing extremist, a person who wrote anti-ICE messaging on their bullets, and there's some evidence that we have that's not yet public, but we know this person was politically motivated. They were politically motivated to go after law enforcement. They were politically motivated to go after people who are enforcing our border, and I think that is the most disgusting thing.
Well, that was J.D. Vance talking about the shooting in Dallas yesterday. Here's Stephanie with the Daily DC Rundown.
There have been calls by others to tell people using rhetoric about ICE agents to cool it in the wake of a lot of this violence. We saw J.D. Vance kind of reference their FBI director. Kash Patel posted a picture on Twitter or X with an anti-ICE messages on the, I think, unused ammunition. But of course, one detainee was killed and 2 were left in critical condition yesterday when that shooter fired on an ICE facility in Dallas. The shooter also committed suicide. So that yesterday in Dallas. We are also getting word that the government shutdown is more and more likely. Trump canceled a meeting set with Schumer earlier this week. The Democrats, they want continued health care subsidies under the Affordable Care Act. Those are set to expire. For Republicans, they want to have a clean CR that keeps the government open through November 21st. But they also want to add greater security funding for officials in the wake of Charlie Kirk's murder. The administration, apparently the OMB, Office of Management and Budget, sent out a memo already that said, hey, if the government shuts down, widespread firings could occur. They urge federal agencies to use this as an opportunity to consider reduction in force notices. The government shutdown would, be problematic for many. If you're wondering how might it affect me, again, we've had a government shutdown before. The last one, December 2018 to January 2019, that was during Trump 1.0. That lasted more than a month, and it was the longest government shutdown in U.S. history, and we're talking about what might be affected. There's always the threat that national parks could close. You see reduced employees in places like the IRS, EPA, the FDA, and, you think... I think last time, one of the shutdowns, it was like just for a few days, and then we got folks were having trouble, I think, getting their refunds back from the IRS or getting communications, and they said, now we're delayed, 4 months. And I'm like, you were only shut down for 4 days. Like, how does that equal a 4-month backlog? But those backlogs are concerning. Also, there's always concerns about the TSA employees who are required to continue working, I think, but without pay. And so travel could be impacted as well. That deadline is the end of the month, so it's coming up here rather quickly. Another deadline that we are watching is there is a statute of limitations that's about to expire with respect to charges against James Comey. And so it is expected prosecutors will bring charges to a grand jury about Comey's testimony to Congress in 2020 about the connection between the Trump campaign and Russian interference. And so that is expected to come here in the next week. We are also hearing word that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is going to seek the death penalty for the shooter convicted of killing 13 people at Fort Hood. That would be the first military execution in more than 60 years. Another thing we're watching, and we're running out of time here, Randy, but we need to get to the economy, because I think as we march toward the midterms, the economy is going to be really important for voters. And we have new data out about new home sales from last month.
Sometimes another bellwether that's pretty important to look at.
Yep.
That home market's been really stagnant. We'll see if it's moving. Now, let's talk about that when we come back, as well as that potential looming indictment on Comey and maybe James, according to MSNBC. Talk about that in the next block. Conservation talk, too, later on at 7:35.
I think just local news is like the
Go back into Wake Up Missouri, 573-874-9390. As we continue to await more solid evidence on exactly what was going on behind the scenes and in the mind of that, well, we'll never know exactly, but some crystal clear motives in the mind of that shooter down at the ICE facility. You know, they're saying that's been up 1,000%, threats and violence against ICE officers. It's crazy. So, Stephanie, you're talking about the housing market. I mean, we know how it was so red hot, just 2 or 3 years ago, and then all of a sudden just bottomed out and sort of became stagnant. People didn't want to put their homes on the market because if they had to replace, go buy another home, suddenly they're paying 6% interest when they were paying 2% or 3% before. That was part of it.
6% if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Yes, we had good news in August. New home sales spiked up 20%. That's the highest level since January of 2022. And sales are up 20.5% compared to July and up 15.4% compared to last August. And that's, so mortgage rates are getting better, but they're still pretty high, but maybe an indicator that folks are starting to.
That's interesting because
feel a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, we keep hearing about. I wonder if that reflects what we had heard was the really rising cost of input because of tariffs and so forth. Maybe those are homes that were already built with materials on hand, inventory on hand. I don't know.
Well, and we're seeing a softening as well because, of course, the prices themselves, regardless of mortgage rates, the prices themselves had been spiking up. The median price of a new home sold in August was $413,500. That's huge, but that's an increase of just 1.9% year over year. So maybe a little bit of softening there because we've just seen, the prices themselves have just been at, skyrocketing.
I wonder what's going to happen. I wonder if, we've heard obviously with not only, with the readjustment of the labor statistics that it's almost 1 million off over the last year. You wonder if how much of that labor softening is in the trades because of the housing market. And maybe that's what's maybe softening some of the inflation in the house prices, right? Although it seems to me as though you guys and gals out there who know how to do things and build houses and frame and electrician and plumbing and all, God love you. I don't know how you do what you do. That seems so technical and so challenging, and always in demand. It's always in demand. So I don't know whether that's part of it. Labor softening costs there. I think it's mainly.
It's one of those kind of deals. You can't rule out the potential. I know Donald Trump has talked about tariffs as high as 35% on framing lumber out of Canada.
Yeah.
And that's where all the framing lumber comes from. Yeah. Vast majority of it comes from Canada.
Yeah, not from our Northwest anymore, huh? I guess with all of our environmental rules and everything. It's a lot of it from Canada.
Yeah, the Crown Zeller box and all those from back in the day who used to own that softwood lumber market.
My dad's dad worked for Crown Zeller box back in the day.
So did my uncle.
Yeah, big company.
Yeah,
and but you talked about the median price, so that means 50% of the homes are sold at a price less than that, and 50% of the homes at a price higher than that. I wonder what the 25th percentile is, because it's really true, and we've talked about it, and I joke around with Drake about what are you guys whining about? You can't afford this and can't afford that. Back in the day when we walked through snow to get to school. But, it's really true. It's very, very difficult for young people to get into the housing market. And certainly that kind of a new home price is out of their reach, unless they happen to be Elon Musk's best friend and land some gorgeous job, But even used home prices or, pre-owned home prices are like, wow, skyrocketing. I'm still quaking at the cost of cars. We had to go car shopping. Helene's car blew up the other day. And it didn't blow up, but the injectors pooped out on it and didn't want to spend the money doing that and as much mileage. But holy cow, car prices are unbelievable.
Yeah, you're talking about new. I agree. I've shopped for cars recently, and they are even in the used car market, which is where I tend to sit. They're still pretty high. If we were looking at young people trying to get into these new homes, I asked the robots what the monthly payment on a $420,000 home was. So if you're sitting at a 30-year mortgage at 6.5%, you're looking at $2,600 a month. For most people, that's just completely unworkable.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I mean, just look at what's in your grocery bags and what you're paying for that. You slip your card in that thing and it comes out, and because you always sort of before the total comes up at the market, you always sort of had an idea. It's probably $20, $30. Well, what was $20, $30 seems all of a sudden to gone to $50 or $60, or maybe 40 or 50 at least, right?
I used to be able to get out of the grocery store for under $100.
For a substantial family.
Yeah, not happening. And I know Brian Hauswirth talks to the local realtors quite frequently, and so I will point out that $420,000 number is a nationwide number. Certainly, our median home price is a little bit less. I think he was saying in July it was about $350, but I mean, even for folks here, $350,000 is quite a lot.
$340,000, $350,000. I think Jefferson City, they talked in the same time period.
So here's a
question. About $260,000, similar for Springfield.
So here's a question about something that many people either have or want to do, depending on whether they're business or vacation, and taking a flight. Today, there's a ceremony involving United Airlines coming back to Columbia. So will that competition influence fares? Because now there's 2 airlines flying out of Columbia? What do you think?
I doubt it. I think for a lot of people, have, like if you fly a lot, like loyalty is really important. So, when they left, I only fly American now, and I'm probably not going to, suddenly start changing my patterns. The one, I think, real important pickup for United, and this is when I would fly United, is that they're going to Denver. And so right now, a lot of folks in Missouri like skiing. A lot of folks like hiking. They like getting to our national parks. And it seemed really inconvenient. The last few times I've gone to Colorado, I've driven. It seemed really inconvenient to fly to Chicago to then fly to Denver, or to fly to Dallas and then fly to Denver. So it's a big pickup for Columbia, and I'm glad they're bringing it back. And then, of course,
daily flights to Denver.
Yeah, and my understanding, too, is kind of like once you get those airlines into your facility, right, then you have better leverage in asking them to add additional flights, right? So,
crack the ice and it's a little bit easier then.
Yeah. So, I mean, they've been talking to American for years about adding that Charlotte flight, which would really help out a lot. And I'm hopeful. They had some, I think, federal grant money that would help them do that. So I think those conversations are continuing. I hope they do continue that. But also, maybe getting United in and adding some additional flights. I don't really know where else like United's hubs are, but John, you'll recall, I mean, Columbia used to have, sometimes adding people angers the other airlines, because Columbia used to have Delta, right? And then when they added, it when they added American that Delta said, see you later?
Back in the day, they had Missouri-based Ozark Airlines flying commuter flights out of Columbia Regional. That dates everybody, and they've been out of business for a long time. But yeah, it can get competitive, I guess is the right word.
Yeah, and I mean, for a lot of folks in mid-Missouri, it's just, I mean, having that regional access to an airport is just
Columbia's
incredible.
Not keeping up with Springfield, Branson. What they have: Allegiant, American, Delta, and United.
Yes, that airport's incredible, and I've driven down there and taken flights out of there because sometimes the timing or the locations work a lot better.
Really?
Yeah.
Even with the drive.
Good connectivity. Yeah, and it's more like flying out of Columbia than St. Louis or Kansas City. You don't have to get there quite as early. It feels a little bit more relaxed. I want to say you do have to. I'm going to get corrected on this. I do think you might have to pay for the parking at Springfield, but certainly it's a lot cheap. If you do, it's a lot cheaper. Yeah. And I think that's one of the huge benefits in Columbia is that you have free parking. I mean, I was just out of town for 10 days, and the last time I flew out of St. Louis, I was just sticker shocked when I went back through the parking thing. And I mean, I think I paid $200 in parking. And so you think,
Yeah, the St. Louis parking you pay there.
Right.
Well, so is Allegiant, is that the one where you have to do everything electronic, and it's sort of like bargain basement airlines? It's like a cargo plane. Is that Allegiant? I don't know. We had to do that out of the Scott Air Force Base once to go when we were, a few years ago, when we were heading down to Destin. We took Allegiant out there. But I don't know. It was one of those. It was everything you had. I had to download an app that I didn't want and do everything.
I mean, most airlines are going toward that. I'm still old school. I want my paper boarding pass. I always ask for one.
No, wait a minute. Would you put that on a promo? That's a promo. Retro Stephanie.
I have to have the paper boarding pass. I don't know.
Really?
It just, well, also I have a problem where my phone's constantly dead.
Oh.
So I think I'm.
Okay, do I need to get you one of those plug-in phone chargers?
I
just
have
a little
them.
thing?
I have
I've got
them
one
all, and those are also dead usually. So it's rough.
Okay. Here, I'm so proud that I've abandoned the boarding pass, and I feel like I've gone back to the future when I have to get one. And you like them.
I do.
Because I lose them. They get in my pocket, and then in all of the TSA, did I take that out of my, oops, I did that, whatever, and then oh, no, where's the boarding pass? I know. Give me the electric.
Boy, somebody's going to relate, too. You know, Mizzou fans and MSU fans getting those digital tickets that you can't pull up on your darn phone where you're trying to go into the stadium.
Oh, is it all digital now?
Yeah, that's a real problem, John, and I've had that in other countries and when we do like big tours or whatever, or concerts.
I had trouble with Ticketmaster the other day at Mizzou.
Yeah, oftentimes, so Randy's looking confused, but oftentimes when you go to these huge facilities, it kills the Wi-Fi service, right? Because there's so many people close, so you have trouble pulling up your phone. So if your ticket's on your phone, suddenly you can't get it. And my old school fix was I always pulled my ticket up before I would go to some place that was really highly popular and screenshot. Although now some of the new apps, they won't, because you could imagine you take a screenshot, you text it to your friend or whatever, and so a lot of them they want it. So I think the best way is if you add it to your Apple Wallet. Have you ever done that, Randy? Okay, if you add it to your Apple Wallet, then you don't then you don't really need the Wi-Fi service to pull up the ticket, and it's still live, so it still will scan for these apps. But it does make for some.
Now there are people that have the big push buttons flip phones. They want. I think my mom may sometime. No, Mom loves her Facebook and texting too much. But there are people who just prefer a flip phone without all of the. What are you going to do if you want to go to the ball game? How do you get a ticket?
And I'm super old school in that I still remember I had like a bulletin board with all my concert ticket stubs. Like I keep them as mementos. So I'm sad that like I don't have like it's just like fun to look back on, and I hate that we no longer have ticket stubs.
But seriously, if you want to go to see the Tigers play, how do you? And you got a flip phone, and there's mandatory.
You're uninvited.
Electronic tickets.
I'm sure you can go to the ticket
There's
office.
some limited paper tickets available.
J.D. Vance may have a word for you. Like he said, if that's the way you feel, you can go to. You're not welcome here. When we come back. Did you know that your state of hydration can affect your mood? Well, one study says so. That when we come back on Make Missouri Healthy Again. Welcome back to Wake Up Missouri on Make Missouri Healthy Again. Got your water cup handy?
I do, in fact. You are drinking, that is coffee. That's not water.
But it's fluid.
It's
brown fluid, but
actually,
fluid.
we had a conversation with a physiologist, an MD PhD one time about that on air, not here, but on a different show, about is coffee the same as tea, the same as water? It's fluid. So fluid is good. Yeah, water's
What about
beautiful.
Coke and beer?
Water's great. No, it was the discussion was
It's
about
fluid.
coffee.
It's fluid.
We were talking about coffee versus
Tequila.
water at that point. And it's probably a nuance that doesn't really matter as long as you're drinking a lot of fluid. But let's just say that it's an interesting study here. They did this is really cool. They took people and they said, so under drinking fluid, they used tea in this study. It was clearly not out from, University of Tennessee. But tea, they said if you drank less than 1.5 liters, so that's roughly 1.5 quarts of fluid a day, versus more than 2.5 liters of fluid. So pretty, just tanking up pretty good. How many liters of fluid you think? How many of these big mugs you drink in a day?
I mean,
Plus you've got
you caught me in a rare moment because normally I have like 3 or 4 drinks by now. I've been a bit busy, but no, I mean, I'm constantly drinking something.
What they found was stress hormones go up in the people that don't drink enough, however you define that. In this case, it was about a quart and a half. They found that then they gave them a stress test, which sort of simulated a mock job interview and a mental arithmetic test. And then you ask some questionnaires about your stress, after that mock type of situation. And they found that both groups, so the low intake and the high intake group, felt equally anxious and experienced similar increases in heart rate. However, here's the kicker. Only the low fluid group showed a significant increase in their salivary cortisol level. Now, the cortisol is that stress hormone. It's a good hormone for a bit, but over the long term, it can lead to heart disease, depression. I think it's associated with diabetes and increased blood sugar because that's you mobilize blood sugar from your stores when you're stressed, right? Because you got to have that energy to, in the old days, run from the woolly mammoth. In the new days, run from the boss's office. And
run from ice.
Yeah. The low fluid group did not report being thirstier than the high fluid group. And here's what's important. And this is where people ask me, what's adequate fluid intake? The low fluid group had darker and more concentrated urine, clear signs of poor hydration. So people say, do I need my 8 cups? 8 cups is roughly that 1.5 liters, so get at least that. Well, if you're a little tiny thing, you may not need 8 cups. If you're a larger person, you may need 10, 12. And if you're sweating, you need more than if you're not sweating. So I always just say, look at your pee. If it's real light colored, sort of straw colored, and you don't turn, for you guys there, if you don't, well, and gals, if you don't turn the water that yeller, you're probably doing okay, right? If it looks like you dropped some food coloring into it, it's like you probably need to drink more water. Now, if you're taking B vitamins, that turns everything very bright fluorescent orange, right?
Yes.
So I'm talking about after the vitamins have washed out. But look, use common sense like that. But even if you're not thirsty, try to get a couple quarts of water in a day. That's sort of fair on most days for average. Because really this could have, and think about it. The only thing where this doesn't make sense is I see so many of us walking around carrying these everywhere. Meetings, everywhere has their big mega cup, but yet we have alarming rates of anxiety and depression. So if drinking enough fluid is supposed to reduce your depression and stress, actually what it does is you still feel the stress, but you don't manifest it biochemically and hormonally as much. That's the important message out of this. So even if you feel stress, if you're drinking enough, you just may reduce your risk of heart disease, diabetes, and depression. And that'll make you and Missouri healthier again today. Back at 7:08. Stay tuned.
morning addiction.
transform the face of conservatism in our own time.
Wake Up Missouri
We're not just going to hunt for drug dealers with the little fast boats and say, let's try to arrest them.
with Stephanie Bell, the Simmer News Team. And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
The office is expected to charge Tish James, the New York Attorney General, with mortgage fraud. And of course, Donald Trump, we all saw it posted on Truth Social in recent days, exhorting his Attorney General to charge both of those people as soon as possible. But again, this is grand juries are secret. This is a fluid situation. It's also important to know, though, that the U.S. attorney, the Trump-appointed U.S. attorney in this office, Eric Siebert, was essentially forced out last week, in part because he was refusing to bring these cases. We're told that he was opposed to prosecuting both James and Comey on these grounds, and he's out.
That's an MSNBC report on Wake Up this morning, Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning, that, I got to tell you, Stephanie, this is an MSNBC report, first of all. So that brings it in a little suspicion. But they're standing behind it, that reports are, and you talked about it earlier, because the statute of limitations in reference to Comey is expiring soon, that there's speculation that there may be federal charges. In this case, I think it's for lying to Congress. Isn't that what they're alleging? Because he said that he told Congress that they didn't spy on Trump and his people.
Yes.
Okay. And then Letitia James for saying that her second residence was her primary residence, getting favorable mortgage things. So that's what MSNBC is reporting on Wake Up Missouri this morning. When's the last time we played an MSNBC clip like that? Using it as a fact evidence for story. Okay. The subtext in this story, and I was just curious from an attorney standpoint. You remember when Barack Obama said something about, I forget the context, but it was a pre-Super Bowl interview. And he said, well, I think he's guilty. It was something where he made a pronouncement on a prosecution. Okay. I forget what the story. And boy, he was excoriated for that. It's like, hey, the president really shouldn't get involved in these kind of matters. And try to maintain at least the appearance of separation, right? Trump has been really pressuring Bondi. And I think, did you see that where he basically said, I've looked at the letters, I've looked at things, and it's been too silent. A lot of talk and no action, essentially his Truth Social post on this. And like, Pam, get your act together. Let's get this going. Where do you stand on that? Do you think that, you said earlier elections have consequences, and I think all of us are hopping, steaming, steam coming out of my ears mad at what they did to Donald Trump. However, and again, I wouldn't be behind it, frankly, if he and Pam were having lunch and he said, hey, how's that investigation going? Wink, wink. Would you like lobster or would you like hamburger? I don't want to know about that discussion, but is it right to publicly do that?
Publicly, I think you're right. I think, like, if it were me, I would do it not publicly.
You would have reservations about that.
But I don't think it's necessarily wrong. She's an appointee of his, right? He has the ultimate responsibility for her work.
Yep.
And if he honestly believes that Comey did something wrong and committed a crime, and she's not prosecuting people who committed crimes, then as a leader, I would have a problem with that. We've seen it here in Missouri, not in the same way, but Andrew Bailey went after Kim Gardner and filed that action and said, you got to start prosecuting these criminals. I need you to step up and do your job. And so if, in his heart of hearts, he feels like she's not doing her job and knows that the clock is ticking, because once that statute of limitations runs, you can't do anything. And again, it goes to the grand jury. They're going to hear whatever evidence there is and ultimately make the decision. But I don't think it's necessarily wrong for the boss to be keeping an eye on his people and making sure, in his opinion, they're doing their jobs.
His comments to the press the other day when he was in the tux, he basically said, like you said, the statute of limitations is running out and these people are innocent, fine, but if they're guilty, time's wasting.
573-874-9390. Again, I don't disagree with him expecting the full force of the law to be brought to James Comey. Again, I'm looking at things through I'm trying to look forward. I want Trump's stock price to be very high because I want him to do things that get a larger body of Americans saying, look, weaponizing what they did to me is wrong. I absolutely agree with the predicate for what he is thinking and what he wants her to do. Does he accomplish the political mission of righting wrongs without looking independent and making it sure that he doesn't have some personal vendetta, right? And I think we all want retribution, we all want justice, we all want that. I'm just thinking about from the issue of the political stance, I'm thinking of that middle who would probably say, yeah, what they did to him is wrong. I'd like him to say, when he's asked, I'm channeling the middle here. When he's asked, do you expect Bondi to do, would the better answer politically be to say, I do not want Pam Bondi to be pressured to do the wrong thing by Donald Trump because I don't want to weaponize this justice system. I expect her to follow the full extent of the law and do the right thing. And stop there.
I don't know that that's not what he intended, but I would say there's a difference between weaponizing and holding people accountable. And I think Trump cares about the future of the country, right? And if no one is... And I get it. I think like he could, he already said he's not really the forgiving kind of guy, which was not unexpected.
You're right.
But I do think that if all of these people, if they actually did commit crimes and they lied, and they're not held accountable, once they win back the presidency, what keeps them from doing it again? Somebody has to be held accountable. And I think he was very clear during the campaign, when things went wrong in the Biden administration, when we lost our military members, when no one was held accountable. And so I think there's a difference, than in just willy-nilly weaponizing the Justice Department, against all of your political opponents, and honestly believing that people, lied or committed crimes, and making sure that you hold those people accountable. So that way, in the future, when J.D. Vance is the president, and they or when we get a Democrat president, and then they go after J.D. or Trump again, what's to stop them, right? If you're never going to be held accountable.
So, well, what about the angle too? We think back to 2016. The chant from the crowd was "lock her up" in regard to Hillary, and Donald Trump said at the time, "Hey, if I'm in here, I'm going to appoint a special prosecutor to go after her." So nothing really new under the sun with the way he approaches this kind of stuff.
Well, I've been thinking a lot about this. I'm just thinking a lot about this. Remember in 2011 when President Obama drew a lot of criticism from the right, from Fox News, maybe from some of us who listen to Fox News. Remember, he made a pre-trial statement about Chelsea Manning, soldier accused of leaking classified information. He made comments after Derek Chauvin was convicted. He said, affirming the jury did the right thing. And there was a lot of criticism for the right that the president should hover above these kind of comments, right? That the president should be the president, expect the people to do the right thing, absolutely. But what Trump said on Truth Social was, Pam, I have reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially same old story as same as last time. All talk, no action. Nothing's being done. What about Comey, Adam Shifty Schiff, Letitia? They're all guilty as hell, but nothing's going to be done. And I think we all agree with that. That's not the point. I agree. And maybe that's what endears Donald Trump to a lot of people. That's what disendears Donald Trump to a lot of people. I just want Trump to be successful. I want there to be a long Republican conservative, quote, reign. That's a dangerous word to use, but leadership. And I think you have to protect your brand. And when
I remember AG Eric Holder going after him over. I keep going back to the Hillary thing, where Eric Holder went after Trump and was saying, "Oh, he's just like Richard Nixon, that he's accusing people without warrant and all this kind of stuff." And it was, I don't know, kind of how the game is played.
Yeah. Which raises a question that is tormenting me more and more and more. And I told this to one of our texters the other day. I said, when are reasonable people going to look at one another in the eye and say, hey, why don't we blink together? Let's really have a new America where we stop personalizing things, where we stop the vitriolic. I can be as vitriolic as the rest of them, and sometimes I have to check myself, and sometimes you check me. And is it? When are we going to stop the descent into chaos and into this increasing polarization? It took a Ronald Reagan to do that. It took that guy who, with humor, the smiling warrior, to totally diffuse that discussion, at least for a while. And I just hope that at some point, and Trump is capable of that. He can be very endearing.
He can be.
573-874-9390. I think it's an important discussion to have. Do two modes of behavior, when one has been fairly vitriolic and absolutely unjustified and terrible, and everyone knows it, does it help for you to double down and say, what about having that conversation with Pam and even publicly saying, hey, I want to make sure that people that did things against the law to me or to anyone else in this country, I want to make sure they're brought to justice. And that's it.
That's a good point, because Donald Trump is the king of airing that laundry in public as opposed to behind closed doors.
And Ken agrees on the text line. He said perhaps his thoughts on everything should be secret. Then it would be the same as the Obama administration.
No, and right. And I knew that. Yep. Okay, you read my mind there. Absolutely. That's what he's going to get accused of.
And so, yeah, I mean, is it better that he said it publicly than that he said it at a private lunch with Pam Bondi? I mean, again, it's Trump.
Well,
everything that rolls around in his mind falls out of his mouth or onto the internet, and I, for one, appreciate it.
It relates to my concern about the rush to an autism cure or an autism cause. Oh, I've made the pronouncement in 6 months. We've got to find that. Well, then, yeah, look, we all say take your Tylenol, as little and as few of them as you have to take to get the job done. We've always told patients that. But he looks the camera in the eye and says, don't take Tylenol. You know, I think we got to be a little careful about maybe expecting some more discernment and nuance from our leaders at all levels. And God help us. I'm not just talking about Donald Trump. I think all of them. And I keep praying for reasoned leadership with a more high road discussion. When we come back, you know how I've had a problem with AI and how it may lead us down some bad pathways?
Get over it.
I'm going to prove that I'm right when we come back.
You're listening to Wake Up Missouri.
into Wake Up Missouri. Hey, it's autumn, and what a beautiful time in Missouri, all across the state. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous time. The leaves will be changing in a few weeks, and the weather will be cooling a little bit. I know Stephanie will be warm for homecoming this weekend, but still, the weather's getting gradually. The nights are getting cooler.
It's always warm on Mizzou homecoming, whether it's in September or October. I can't tell you how many sweaters and jackets in black and gold I've bought, and I'm buying a black or gold tank top the week before homecoming.
But it'll
be nice. I think the high this weekend is in the low 80s.
We're going to be talking to Adam Derdoff from the Missouri Conservation Department here at 7:35 about activities going on. And activities you probably shouldn't have going on because they might not like that at the Department of Conservation. So some things about that, and if there's any new rules, maybe a little about CWD and deer hunting season in swing now if you're a bow hunter. Okay, so all of us love AI. It's like the magnum, unbelievably powerful instant Google search that really just condenses that search down to a few seconds at a minimum, and it can generate stuff as well. And so this study, there's some folks that are saying that AI creates a convenient moral distance between people and their actions and can induce them to do unethical things. A research team looked at 13 tests on 8,000 participants. In one experiment, participants would roll dice, report the number that turned up, either honestly or dishonestly, but they'd get paid the same amount. The bigger numbers meaning a higher payout. What do you think happened? Some participants were given the option of telling the number to an AI model, either honestly or dishonestly, which would then report the dice outcome to researchers. 95% of participants were honest when AI wasn't involved, but when they knew AI was involved, that figure of honesty dropped to 75%.
So you feel bad lying to another person, but you don't feel bad lying to the robot?
But wait, it gets worse. When they were given the opportunity to manipulate the AI model with different data sets that either reported the dice numbers accurately some of the time or that would give out maximum number of the dice anytime, so now you can tell the AI what you want it to do, it got even worse. Over 84% cheated. I'm telling you, you've got to be careful when you're not dealing face-to-face with another human being. We see it on social media and the sniping and the vitriol and the hateful stuff. And now you're going to be dishonest more. You're more likely to be unethical in an AI environment, according to this research.
This game and research sounds kind of stupid. I mean, ultimately, if you're making me play like a fake game where I can win money, I'm going to try to win the most money.
And I'm reading the research right now. I pulled up the article, and yeah, I agree with you. I mean, we've been cheating. I mean, in my high school, I'd probably say that the same amount of people cheated before AI and after, because I was there before AI and right at the tail beginning of AI. I don't think that there's much of a difference.
And I think this just sings AI's praises because people are using AI to maximize their own self-advantage. And I think, and ultimately, AI is only as good as the people that built it and the people that are using it.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've just witnessed anchoring bias and logical fallacy on the part of Drake and Stephanie. You love the research
Who's
that
the
supports
biased one?
You love the research that picks what you find, and you hate the research that doesn't. So these researchers are all wet, right? Nothing here.
I mean, we all did it before.
Conservation, 7:35.
As America
It is autumn upon us very soon, and that means outdoors activities abound. I know many of you listening either are or know or support or hold your nose while your husband or wife disappears hunting. Season coming up, and a lot of other things happening in Missouri in the outdoors. Boone County Conservation Agent Adam Deerhoff joins us now. Thanks for coming in, Adam. Appreciate it.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
There we go. There we go. Let's try it now.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being in. Appreciate it. So it's going to be a busy time for you, right? Because, well, maybe not, because everyone obeys the conservation laws, right? So you'll be getting a lot of shut-eye, no problems at all.
Right. Yeah, most people are really good.
They are.
There are a lot of resource users and a lot of other folks enjoying the outdoors in a non-consumptive capacity. But, you know, as fall gets here, and it's here now, so many more activities come into focus. The weather is a lot more attractive for being outside and doing these activities. A lot of hunting seasons open, and so there's just a lot going on. It's a great time to be outside.
You sent us a story about a couple of Shannon County elk poachers that were sentenced. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this was really interesting. This is a almost 2-year-old case. It was opening weekend of the November portion firearms season, where an elk down in the Ozarks was shot, and it was discovered by a 14-year-old. And we would have had several news releases on this at the time, informing the public, asking for information, that sort of thing. And unfortunately, this isn't the first time we've had an elk poached down there. Now, there's some legal hunting for elk down there, but occasionally there's just a dead elk, sometimes outside of season, that has been shot, you know, that sort of thing.
But we're trying to increase the elk population, right? We've introduced them here, and so
Correct.
It takes a lot of careful management.
It has taken a lot of management and effort to get the elk herd to where it is now. And it was years in the making before we were able to even turn elk loose on the landscape.
And that's a collaboration between wildlife biologists and enforcement in conservation, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a collaborative thing there.
And with other states.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so great big effort. And you know, not everybody likes the elk. Not everybody's going to always like whatever it is. Yeah. But overall, it has been a very popular program, if you want to call it that. And a lot of people take ownership in the elk. Nobody owns the elk, but everybody takes ownership in it, which is what we want. We want citizens to have a feeling of ownership of the resources of the state, because when you have that sense of ownership and you care about the resources, you're more likely to want to use them, protect them, be engaged about them, learn about them, share your knowledge with others, you know, that sort of thing. So you can imagine when this came out about the elk, a lot of people were upset. We started getting tips. It was a long investigation that finally identified some suspects, and arrests were made, and they just did recently here plead guilty and had, you know, fines imposed on them. But it's not necessarily to toot our horn that, like, hey, we got them, but we do want to let the public know that we arrested them, and the case went the distance, and guilty convictions.
There are
were
consequences for breaking the law.
Yeah, right.
whether you stay parked too long at the meter, or whether you shoot an elk you're not supposed to. I mean, what a novel thought. Let's talk, because I know a lot of hunters are listening. Often there are new changes in the regs that come about, and I got to be honest with you, Adam. Man, I get that little book at the store and at the gun store when I get my license, and it's a lot of read, you know. Are there any headline bullet points that people need to know about changes in the hunting regulations, maybe especially deer this year?
Absolutely. And I don't have the booklet in front of me right here at the moment.
Just some of the highlights.
Yeah. Excuse me. A lot of it's CWD related, about transportation, what counties are new to CWD management, where you can't have out salt or mineral licks or provide feed in the woods, you know, that sort of thing. On our deer and turkey regulation booklet and on our fishing booklet, hunting and trapping regulations booklet. On the back, it'll say what's new, what's new for the year. And on the front, just inside the front cover, and we really try to highlight these things, the things that are the biggest. There might even be a news release on. And
I guess online, is there maybe on the mdc.mo.gov
absolutely
website as well? Sort of some bullet points there for folks?
Right, absolutely. That's very popular for folks to access that on their phones. I'm old school. I like to have a hard copy in my hand.
Me too.
Yes.
Like her boarding passes.
I want a paper boarding pass.
She's our
Yes.
tech goddess here on the program, but yet she wants the paper boarding pass. That's
I get it.
Anomaly, yeah. So, and for those who don't know, CWD is chronic wasting disease. It's a really a threat to the herd. It's become endemic in places like Wisconsin and other places, right?
Right.
What's the pace of the spread and the scope and the geography of the spread currently in Missouri?
Sure. So first off, it's a downer of a topic, but again, we want to let folks know in Missouri, we're doing as well here as anywhere in the nation due to our efforts. We're doing great, and so we want to focus on the good. Yeah, if it gets away from you, if you get about a 5% prevalence rate in the herd, you're past the point of no return. So in our core areas, we're at 1% or less in almost all of those areas. So it's good. It's
creep in terms of the growth. It's just creeping. It's not exploding in those areas.
Right.
Yeah,
it has the ability to when it reaches a certain level, but if you can keep it at or below 1%, you can manage it.
And a little bit in the weeds, but the reason that those regs are in place in terms of no salt licks and no, corn in the feeder, it's for a good reason. Explain that biologically, because a lot of people may not understand why those regulations are in place.
Right. There's different ways the disease can be spread, but most commonly it is spread from deer to deer. So if you think about a mineral lick or a pile of corn or something like that, that can artificially congregate the deer,
it's
and they've got the ability
wet kiss among the deer,
right? And then, so they've got the ability to pass it very easily. Hey, I like mineral licks.
Yeah.
That's a tough thing to have to give up, But what is tougher is if we see our deer herd long-term reduced by, like, let's say 40%, and you never see a buck more than a small buck. So we've got a tremendous quality of bucks, I guess you could say, here in Missouri, and whether you hunt or not, almost everybody can appreciate a big buck.
There's nothing more glorious than that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But if CWD really takes hold, those older age class bucks will be a thing of the past.
So there's going to be some open houses to discuss deer management coming up, right?
Absolutely. So this is a big deal. At times we have meetings for different things, a big regulation that might be on the horizon, that sort of thing. But I don't know, every handful of years or so we have these open house meetings for deer where we can talk about anything that the public wants to talk about. I think there will be a presentation by our deer biologist, which even as even as staff is always very enlightening to us. It's updated every year. This has big picture trends. How are we trying to manage this in a certain part? Deer in general, not just CWD, just deer in general. We're looking at big scale things. We understand this comes down to individual landowners and hunters and things like that. But we're talking about at least a county or a portion of the state or the state as a whole. But if you want to come by, visit with us about anything, ask questions, express your concerns, have a conversation with us. There'll be a handful of conservation agents there, other MDC staff. These are going on across the state starting next week. There's, I believe, 9. They start September 30th. And go through October 16th, but October 8th, if you're interested, Eugene at Eugene High School on October 8th.
Okay.
And the day before, the 7th in Macon.
So everyone.
So
can
those
find,
are the two closest.
Good, and everyone, and in Springfield area too. And
absolutely.
So they'll be all in the areas. Right?
St. Joe, Chillicothe, Lone Jack, Palmyra, Macon, Eugene, Eureka, Poplar Bluff, West Plains, and Mount Vernon.
Cool.
Nice.
But Macon and Eugene are going to be the two closest here. They're all from 4 to 8 p.m.
Okay.
The deer biologist presentation is very enlightening. Like I said, as staff, we see it every year. It's always like same but different, but you just want to soak it up like a sponge, all the information.
People may not know that our guest, Adam Deerhoff, and all of the great people there at Missouri Department of Conservation are part of one of the premier departments of conservation in the nation. I mean, people flock to try to apply. Jobs are very prized because it's well managed. Director Jason Sumners happens to be a deer biologist. We've had him up at the farm, and we have a little deer co-op area. And we had a little, usually after the season, we get together and talk about it. And Jason came up when he was managing the deer program here in Missouri and gave a nice talk. So, yeah, we're blessed. We're blessed.
Absolutely.
So that's Adam Deerhoff joins us here on Wake Up Missouri.
Adam, how's the turkey flock look for this fall?
Good. There have been, in recent years, the hatch for poults has been steadily increasing. Now, it's not the same everywhere. If, for example, we've had a great hatch around here, somewhere down in the Ozarks, it may have been poor. But just overall, as a whole, we've had better hatches here in recent years, from about 2008, somewhere in there, until a handful of years ago. Overall, it was just bad hatch after bad hatch, and there was a lot of hunter disappointment. We saw statewide harvest really decrease. That's how it goes with wildlife populations. There's the ebb and the flows. If it's things you can't control, that's okay. If it's things you can control, it depends on what's driving it. The weather is the biggest driver of hatches, and that's the only way to have more turkeys. But long story short, in recent years, it's been good. Turkey hunters have been more pleased here in recent years. So a lot of optimism for turkeys in the state of Missouri.
And if you are maybe not in the hunting group like me, but you care about those fall colors, you have a new resource, or not a new resource, but a resource that people might want to check out, the MDC Fall Color Report.
Right. Go to our website, mdc.mo.gov/fall color. And from September through November, you can see what the trends are for fall colors, and these reports are posted by foresters across the state. And this is a very popular fall program.
It'll be
for
fun.
us.
MDC.mo.gov.
Yes.
Adam Deerhoff, thanks for making sure that conservation continues to thrive in Missouri. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for
having me.
All right. When we come back, John, what's up?
While you're out in the deer woods, watch out for the nut-eating killer.
That when we come back on Wake Up Missouri.
This is Wake Up Missouri.
doing that.
Yeah,
Oh, look,
I
there's
know.
100 in a tree
they
stand.
do out you, yeah. But that's really fun. Do you sit up in a tree ever and have the squirrels look at you, Stephanie?
No.
No, you don't do that.
She does that in the courtroom.
Yeah, we had a bird feeder, and
Yeah?
I stopped filling it up because the squirrels were just all over it all the time.
There's all kinds of contraptions to keep the squirrels away from your bird feeder, but
I'm
I
not
don't
that
know.
serious.
They never seem to
Vaseline
work.
and all
yeah.
that stuff, yeah.
I love watching the animal videos you run across once in a while on, on the Twitter. When I saw one where somehow the family, I think they were on vacation, so they have the trunk of the pickup open, and they've got a bunch of duffel bags with stuff in. Apparently, one duffel bag had food in it, and
That's a mistake.
and the dad takes. I mean, no one got hurt, but this bear and the cub, the mama bear comes up and just grabs that thing by the handles or by the by the scruff of the duffel bag and just walks away with it. And they're like, "No, don't go." The dad wants to go after him. No, get that. No, don't go after the deer, the bear with the duffel bag. But fun stories. Drake, when you have you're an animal lover, and you have a lot of different varieties of animals. Have you ever had an animal, a domesticated animal, get surly with you or bite you or anything like that, or no?
We had a Newfoundland when I was younger that was a little aggressive, and we've had some dogs. All of our dogs now are like completely fine, haven't like looked at a child wrong or anything like that.
What about emus and ostriches? Do they get aggressive?
I mean, they can.
Yes, those birds are mean.
Is it
especially
llamas
big
that can
birds.
get mean too?
Llamas
No,
can get mean.
Llamas can get mean.
We have a horse right now that it tries to kill my mom every single night. It seems like.
Ooh, was he a stallion or something?
I don't really know. But if anyone wants a horse, 573-874-9390. Give us a text.
After that, you think anyone's going to want that horse?
It's a lovely horse. It's never done a bad thing in its life.
Hey, Stephanie, we've got to talk about this order by Judge, I think it was Judge Green, wasn't it?
Yep.
That has now, I guess, maybe striking down some authority that Andrew Bailey had legislatively. And Catherine Hanaway says that's wrong. So let's talk about what that means for Missourians when we come back, okay, at 8:08. And he struck down the wording on the abortion law as well, right? On the amendment, I think?
I'd have to confirm which judge that was, but that was out of Cole County.
Yeah, so we'll talk about some law and judge interactions that affect you after we come back later on next year.
to come together.
From the Zimmer Radio Network headquarters, it's your morning addiction.
Transform the face of conservatism in our own time.
Wake Up Missouri
We're not just going to hunt for drug dealers with the little fast boats and say, let's try to arrest them.
with Stephanie Bell, the Zimmer News Team. And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
Evidence that we have that's not yet public, but we know this person was politically motivated. They were politically motivated to go after law enforcement. They were politically motivated to go after people who are enforcing our border. And I think that is the most disgusting thing.
That was Vice President J.D. Vance yesterday at a law enforcement event saying, hey, it's got to stop. It's getting ridiculous. And I think everyone on every side of the fence that has any sensible neuron firing in their brain realizes it's out of control. The way to win an argument, at least according to some, is eliminate the person you're arguing with. And when and if that's going to stop and how it stops is, I guess, one of the questions of our time. I'm Randy Tobler. There's Stephanie Bell along with John Marsh and Drake. We are Wake Up Missouri. Glad you're with us. And Stephanie, the left keeps saying that there's no motive that's been established yet. But yet I think from all that we know, this guy that sprayed bullets into an ICE facility and the vans around it as they were unloading detainees wrote anti-ICE on the shell casings. I think it's likely probably not an ICE supporter and an immigration law enforcement supporter.
No, and it's horrible that, I mean, if you're anti-ICE and then you end up killing the detainees, I mean, that's just
crazy,
awful. And I mean, we got the picture from Kash Patel on X yesterday showing the inscriptions on the ammunition, and J.D. Vance has said, we have additional information to
that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, that it was politically motivated.
Hasn't come out yet exactly what that was. So in Missouri, there's some interesting things going on. Judge Green in Cole County has been active in the last several days, right? Starting on Friday. He had a ruling on this Amendment 3. It's the same title as the one that passed last November, but a much more restrictive abortion amendment. But he did some ruling on the language there.
And we have to be careful when we use the word title, because that's a term of art. So they are both Amendment 3.
Yeah,
but they have
got the same number.
Yeah, same number.
Yeah.
But when we talk about titles and measures, we talk about a ballot title. And the ballot title typically has two things. It has what's called the summary statement, and that's the language describing the measure, and it has a fiscal note summary. And those combined are called what we call the ballot title.
Okay.
And that's what he was examining, as well as the full measure. So there are a couple of arguments. A, that the language describing the measure was insufficient and unfair, and B, that the measure contained two subjects. Now, it's interesting because if you win, if you say, the Constitution says each proposed measure has to only deal with one subject, the Supreme Court has in the Western District, taken a pretty broad view of what having one subject means. I have lost those cases saying this clearly has two subjects, and they say, they're connected. And so,
right. Well, since the initial Amendment 3 said fundamental right to reproductive freedom, right?
Right.
That included, transgender rights. Now, this is using the same argument to say, no, if you can allow transgender rights and whatever you want to call reproduction, and people that choose to reproduce or not produce and gender, well, they're connected. So now, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander.
Yeah, Judge Green ruled in favor for the, I guess, the pro-life community or the opponents to that, to that lawsuit on that issue, and said, no, they're connected enough. However, there does need to be a tweak to the language. Now, if you recall, typically what would happen if the judge found the ballot measure insufficient and unfair, the judge himself would rewrite, or herself would rewrite that ballot language. That's what we saw with Amendment 3 1.0.
Because Jay Ashcroft lost.
Right. Yeah. And the legislature changed the law, and it essentially gives the Secretary of State another bite at the apple. So now what Judge Green has said is this ballot language is no good, but Secretary of State Hoskins, you get to write it. Get a do-over. You get to write it again, and he has to submit that language by Friday, I believe, and then the parties, I think, get 3 days to make arguments against this new language. He actually, if the judge finds the new language insufficient, it goes back to the Secretary of State. I think
3 strikes and he's out?
And then the judge will rewrite it.
So did you see the little fine print in the order that said he must wear his red coat on the second try?
I didn't see that.
Got to wear the red sport coat there, Kenny. Just kidding. Just kidding. That's not factual reporting, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. He was being Being humorous.
Just being funny.
Steph, what about the ruling that Judge Green put out that Catherine Hanaway isn't crazy about, and it deals with the appeals process from cases handled by the Attorney General?
Right. So this was the decision, I believe, was it yesterday that came out? And Judge Green wrote access. So you'll recall Judge Jung, who's in Jackson County, is where the plaintiffs originally ran to after Amendment 3 passed and tried to get, and did in fact get a lot of Missouri's pro-life and women's health laws struck under the 2024 Amendment 3. And the legislature passed a bill that would then require some of those cases to be brought in Cole County. But then also the issue was she issued a preliminary injunction, right, and said, which basically said all these laws are unconstitutional now. But I guess the full merits of that case hadn't yet been heard.
And Andrew Bailey was saying that these places are not adhering to regulatory safety laws, and she said that doesn't matter. She put an injunction on his ruling.
And there's no real timeline for these cases. And so certainly the folks in the Attorney General's office were frustrated that, hey, while this preliminary injunction's in place, we have no regulations, we have no protections. We should be able to appeal that immediately and not have to wait 2 years for this case to play out. My understanding, and I don't practice as much in federal courts, is that in federal court you do have the opportunity to take an immediate appeal. So
we see that all the time with Trump's executive orders.
In certain circumstances, yes. And so the legislature changed that and said, in this instance, you should be able to appeal immediately. But Judge Green wrote, access to courts, including the right to appeal, is a fundamental right for the purposes of equal rights and opportunity under the law. This law impinges on that right because it only grants authority to appeal a preliminary injunction in which a state or state official is involved, and then only to the Attorney General. So both sides, I think, have said, I know in the abortion measure, I believe, I think Chuck Hatfield has said he's going to appeal on the determination of the single subject issue. And here, the Attorney General has said they're going to appeal this decision related to their ability to appeal preliminary injunctions.
Okay, so as it stands, though, is there not restriction on Planned Parenthood doing abortions because there's regulatory safety measures about those facilities that...
No, those are all gone right now.
All gone.
That's why...
because of Green's ruling.
No. Oh, no. That
because
is
of the previous ruling.
That's the Kansas City judge. Yeah. So
Kansas
there's
City.
two things going on. What are the implications of the past Amendment 3 in 2024? And now that technically it's Missouri law that we have the right to reproductive freedom, the judge has stricken a bunch of our existing laws related to women's health and abortion. This other lawsuit is about the new Amendment 3 and what that language looks like when it goes on to the voters. But obviously, I mean, if stepping a little bit outside my lane, I deal with the legal aspects, but I think if you talk to the politicos and the folks that do the polling, oftentimes people don't go and read the full measure. They don't go and read the pages and pages underlying. What they do is they read that short paragraph that's on the ballot, and depending on how that language is written, could potentially influence their decision. And so the standard in Missouri is that it be not unfair or insufficient, that it sufficiently summarizes the measure and that it doesn't do so in an unfair way, which they kind of talk about like being biased. And so there's oftentimes there's tons of litigation. There's lots of pending cases. This just is right now on ballot measures that are potentially up for a vote in 2026. But this is obviously the most high profile one.
And we see the sleight of hand. We've seen it in court cases before where it was one of those deals to simplify it. If you support this issue, vote no. If you're against it, vote yes. But people confuse the voters.
But relating to a woman's opportunity to get an abortion in Kansas City or St. Louis,
they can get one now
because the judge in Kansas City ruled that Bailey's opposition to them opening that up was on the basis not of Amendment 3, but on safety regulations. That he said they had some unsafe deals, and so he wanted the right to get a more rapid appeal
of that.
Correct. And Judge Green has taken that hammer out of the Attorney General's office for the time being.
Because
there was the potential that that could have been his appeal could have been heard rapidly.
Well, and you recall he did take an appeal.
Yeah.
And the court said that she used the wrong standard. Judge Jung used the wrong standard for the preliminary injunction, and then she basically rewrote the same decision and said, "Oh, I applied the new standard," and then did it again. So I believe he has since appealed that. I don't know. I don't know, because Judge Green obviously's decision is subject to review as well. I don't know if I believe the AG has appealed Judge Jung's second preliminary injunction. I don't know exactly how that interplays. If one judge will kind of wait, if that judge will wait to see how this Judge Green decision plays out before they rule.
Because now Hanaway is going to appeal Judge Green's handcuff on her,
Correct.
Metaphorically here, not being able to appeal rapidly on behalf of the people.
Yes.
Okay. It all sounds very confusing, but it does affect you, ladies and gentlemen, because these are the decisions that, I mean, if you're pro-abortion, you don't want Catherine Hanaway to enforce safety regulations that are sort of carved out and don't apply to abortion facilities under the current ruling by the judge in Kansas City. But she thinks, well, Andrew Bailey thinks she should, that they should, and I assume Catherine Hanaway, based on her statements, follows and agrees with Andrew Bailey's thrust on this, right? So it's complicated legally. Glad you can help decipher that, Stephanie, but it's important. And, we don't even know where Judge Green stands on abortion, but it's not about that. It's about his, in this case, saying we shouldn't just give the right for an appeal on this kind of a thing to the Attorney General. Everyone should have the right of appeal.
And it does look like Bailey appealed the second preliminary injunction, and that case was heard in the Western District Court of Appeals. That decision has not yet been released. So he's been using that authority that Judge Green potentially is taking away here since the law passed.
Yeah. Complicated, but we can figure it out eventually. We will help you do that.
Smart lawyers.
573-874-9390. In light of the whole violence by transgender offenders against people like Charlie Kirk and others, Catholic schools, you wonder if that is going to rise to a higher level of scrutiny on the part of the voters. That part of this, the new Amendment 3 that's going to be in November, because it certainly, I think, raised awareness of the acuity of that issue. Let's see what the markets are doing when we come back with the Morning Bell.
All the money you want.
What would you do with that money?
Have you ever heard this saying?
A penny
It's time for the Morning Bell and the Market Report with Stephanie.
Not great news. Yesterday, the Dow down 0.37%, NASDAQ down 0.33%, S&P down 0.28%. And as we look at the futures, everything is in the red this morning. The biggest losses yesterday were amongst materials, real estate, and communication services. Now, I hate to do this, Randy, but I think I'm gonna bring you back. But I'm gonna give you some more fodder for your AI hate cult.
I don't have a hate cult. I use it all the time.
And I love a good new word. One of my favorite days is when the dictionary announces the new words. Here's a new word for you. It's called work slop.
Work slop.
Not two words, one word. Work slop.
Oh, all one word.
Yep. And AI, the article, there's a new study out from the Harvard Business Review, and they are saying that AI is generating a lot more work slop. And they surveyed more than 1,000 full-time employees across various industries. They said it primarily affects the tech sector, but 40% of respondents said that they had received work slop in the past month. They said of all the work that hit their desk, about 15% of it was what they would call work slop. And they said it's a peer-to-peer problem, and it usually your direct report won't give you work slop. But when you're like, oh, I can help you with that, maybe you throw those slides into AI, and then it comes back to you, and it's not really what you wanted. 53% of employees said they're annoyed by it. 38% are confused. 22% are actually offended. They say the slop has mistakes or missing information, and it creates more work for whoever gets the work slop, because you get a product and you think, okay, now I have to sit here and redo it. The study estimates that for a company of 10,000 employees, work slop results in $9 million worth of lost productivity.
Ouch.
A year. So not great.
Does Webster have a formal definition of that yet, or will it be in next year's?
I think it might be on the list for next year. According the researchers from the Harvard Business Review, in collaboration with Stanford's Social Media Lab, have coined the term work slop to define essentially low quality output, creating more work on the people on the receiving end of the yucky work output.
How does that correspond to the word they put in for this year, mouse jiggler?
Yeah, yikes. But Randy, I would say, like, even though technically it's a new term, I mean, you've had direct reports before. Work slop is nothing new, right?
No.
I mean, sometimes you give someone a project, it comes back and you're like, this is not what I was looking for. We gotta correct this or start over. So I don't think it's AI's fault. I do think in my line of work, like, I think, obviously we bill by the hour. So, there is some sensitivity to spending, and we are on deadlines, right? So there's some sensitivity to spending too much time on a project.
Sure.
But I've noticed it amongst the younger generation where they want to do it as fast as they can.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a lot of coaching about, hey, like, I don't need this as fast as you possibly can. What I need is the best, the best work put out. So I need you to take some more time, look at this, dig deeper here, fix this or whatever. And so, that it predates AI work slop. So I think, I don't know that it's a function of AI or a function of maybe the younger generation, but I do think, certainly, I think we're all kind of in that messy middle where we're trying to learn how to use AI. I've been implementing it more and more. I wouldn't say that I turn to it every day, but, and I wouldn't call what the AI gives me slop, but I would say I spend quite, even if I can get some ideas or get a head start, I spend quite a lot of time, using my own brain.
That's right, yeah.
And I think we have to train the younger generation to do that same thing, to not just take what AI gives you.
Yeah, I view it as just a super rapid, supercharged Google search right now. I mean, if that's, it's somewhere to get a start on. Much better than Wikipedia? I don't know. Back with more Wake Up Missouri after this. Welcome back into the program. FBI is probing 2 homes connected to the ICE facility shooting suspect yesterday morning. So they're doing that today, and we'll see what that's going to yield. 29-year-old shooter apparently had become socially isolated. Large amount of video gaming. Drake says it's not really a large amount of video gaming. 3,000 on this, 2,000 on that. Not a whole lot. Not a lot.
You know, I mean, you said that Dungeons and Dragons was causing demonic worshiping in the 80s. Then it was TV.
I didn't say
now
that. You said that. I didn't say that.
Now it's gaming.
I didn't say that. Well, and right, correlation does not causation make, right? Just because there's been a radical uptick in video gaming among young men, young people in general, especially young boys and men.
But wasn't the Charlie Kirk shooter also like really in on the gaming space?
20 years.
He was on Discord. I mean, we don't know if he was
deep dark spaces with guys that become socially isolated.
Discord is not a deep and dark
radicalized
place.
on Discord.
Okay,
and Reddit.
Randy.
No, nothing. There's no connection there. No connection at all. No,
yeah,
not whatsoever. Well, for those of you who have been following this acetaminophen in pregnancy story, there's a new twist to this that's very troubling. I've been hearing from a lot of patients and indirectly from patients who know women who have autistic babies, took Tylenol for a fever, a headache, and a backache, and now there's some guilt that's arising or some, like thoughts. Did I do something to harm my baby? It's really creating a lot of, my heart breaks for those patients. I tell them I have no reason to believe that if you took Tylenol for your headache or your backache, that there's any strong reason to believe that you did something to harm your baby. I think we need to get that out there in the light of this. I want to reinforce that the American College of OBGYN, this is the Canadian Society of OBGYN, the Society for Maternal Fetal Medicine, all continue to, they've re-reviewed the stuff. Their statements fall squarely on what we've always told patients. Take, with any medicine in any trimester, take as little as it takes to do the job for as little length of time as it takes to do the job. I think it's going to be, doctors are probably going to be having those discussions with patients at the bedside saying, hey, the government says one thing. I happen to personally believe that the risk of letting your fever go on in one case, and they made those reservations in the government statements. I don't think Donald Trump came out quite as strongly as he should have about that. He said, only take it if you have a high fever. Well, what's a high fever? That's to be debated. And I think it'll be a shared decision-making process where a patient will say, look, I hear you, doc, but I'm worried about the government thing. Is there anything else we can do? Well, here's an idea. Talk with your doctor about this. If you're having a headache in pregnancy, this is just an idea. This is not a prescription. If you're pregnant and you're having headaches, which happen. Did you have headaches in your pregnancy, Stephanie?
I had all sorts of aches and pains.
For some types of headaches, caffeine can be helpful.
If I don't have caffeine, I now get a headache.
Certainly if you withdraw from caffeine, and many women do that in pregnancy because they're worried about problems. Generally, under a couple hundred milligrams a day is thought not to be a problem. But you might think about if you're not a regular caffeine user, you're having a headache, and you might take, instead of one 500 milligram Tylenol, talk to your doctor about, can I take a little caffeine with that? Might it reduce my need for some Tylenol if I'm going to take it? These are the kind of nuanced discussions that I think you should have with your doc. That's my personal advice to you if you're doing that. Your doc will probably say, look, I've got to document that it's not been established there's any safe level of any medicine or any tobacco, anything that you might put in your body other than the healthiest of organic foods from the ground. But you got to live your life. And so, it's going to be a discussion that you'll have to have. Here's the problem, though. Listen to this. There are women. Go ahead, Drake.
I just have a question about pregnancy, and this is for myself almost.
This is how babies are made.
What are you going to transition?
Yeah. For whenever I get pregnant, I know that you're not supposed to smoke, but are the Zins and the nicotine pouches and patches and all that, is that okay?
We think nicotine has potential teratogenic effects and is not healthy in any way, shape, or form. But,
okay, for the rest of us, teratogenic?
Birth defect causing.
Okay.
If you're gonna use it, and again, it's another psychoactive drug, just like marijuana, tobacco. I mean, Tylenol theoretically theoretically, that's what they're saying, may alter neurodevelopment because of inflammation in the brain. Well, if you get a fever, or if mom has a fever, gets her body temp too high, that affects neurodevelopment. Trust me. We know that. So there's a lot of things that cause inflammation in the brain, right? So you got to think these things through. If you're trying to cut down your fever so you don't have the inflammation, is that inflammation alleged from the Tylenol worse than the inflammation from the fever? Those are the discussions you need to have with your doc. So I don't know. It's interesting. But here's the deal. So my advice is try not to put any foreign substance into your body except good, wholesome foods that are not ultra-processed as much as you can when you're pregnant, okay? When you get pregnant, Drake, remember that. Take it to the bank.
So if you, drink, smoke, and do all those other drugs, you can possibly have a super baby, is what I'm hearing?
Or you might vote for Biden when you grow up.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Just making sure.
That might happen, too. Oh, I'm kidding. That's hyperbolic humor there, John. John's squinting like...
Boy, oh boy.
Should we publish that in the Harvard Review of Public Health?
Think they put it out?
No. Actually, you'll talk to people who did all the, they smoked, they drank, they did everything and whatever. You talk to some old timers and they say, I had the healthiest of babies. And you know their families and you go, I don't know. So that's where the concept of risk is, I think, underappreciated. We talk about the vaccine works or it doesn't work. Lipitor prevents heart attacks or doesn't prevent heart attacks. Ozempic cures diabetes or drugs they lower your risk, or a particular behavior raises your risk. If you smoke, you raise your risk of cancer. Do most people who smoke get lung cancer? No. But more people who smoke get lung cancer than those who don't smoke. So it's a risk assessment, right? That's all. Now, I'm troubled by this, Stephanie. I really am very troubled. To tell you the extremes that people will go to based on ideology, have you read the reports about some women on the left that are basically flouting that they're taking all kinds of Tylenol and they're pregnant? Poop on you, Donald Trump. Listen to this.
So it's about, going to be 6 a.m. finally. And for those of you who don't follow me on Twitter, I recommend that you do. I got a call, a very frantic call at 4 o'clock in the morning from a husband whose wife is now dying of liver failure on a ventilator in an ICU because she was trying to prove that Tylenol doesn't cause autism because of what Trump said on the news. Mind you, that's a Harvard study. Now, whether or not you believe the Harvard study or not is not the issue here. The issue is that she's somewhere between 23 to 25 weeks and she overdosed on Tylenol. And she's going to die. She's not going to come off that ventilator. And the guy got my phone number from somebody. Somebody gave it to him. I mean, guys, it's early in the morning. I'm still in Hello Kitty sweatpants in my gym trying to work out. And she's going to die. It's going to be, let me tell you something about Tylenol overdosing and death, is that if you aren't administered the antidote, it is a very slow and painful death, okay?
I don't know whether this is a spoof. I don't know if this woman is masquerading as a nurse. But if people are truly just, metaphorically putting their middle finger in Donald Trump's face, because he's Trump and he cautioned against acetaminophen. We all caution against too much of anything in pregnancy. As I just said, any medication, we weigh the benefit and the risk and use as little as it takes for as short a time as it takes to try to help the problem. So I don't know, but I think we're going to probably hear some stories like this, that people are trying to sort of smart aleck, pop the Tylenol more than they should, and look what happens. I mean, how tragic. It's amazing what ideology will drive people to do. Right?
Or TDS.
Or TDS, yeah. TDS is truly... I'm wondering if the next edition of the DSM, the psychiatric manual is going to include TDS.
Boy, they should.
Yeah. I mean, at first I was skeptical that it was really sort of a disorder, but I'm pretty convinced it is. But do you think that some of us have ODS? Obama Derangement Syndrome?
No.
Just Michelle.
Well, when I was pretty radically against Barack Obama during the Obamacare discussions, I was pretty out there with my statements about him and about what he was going to do to American medicine and patients. I don't know. Did I have ODS? I don't know. Or was it just proper criticism? Where does it what defines the difference between criticizing the policies and the actions and whatever of a political person and being deranged over them? Probably if you overdose on Tylenol, end up on a ventilator. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we agree? Fair? 573-874-9390. For as long as we can see, this political division is going to proliferate. It's going to continue. And think about this: just 2 weeks after an outspoken, peaceful Christian man who has a lot of opinions that were a lot of out of line with many mainstream and leftist Americans, was assassinated for those said opinions, peacefully being discussed on the town square under a tent, in this case a college quad under the tent. One Hillary Clinton came out.
And I am proud of the fact that we have always been a work in progress. You know, we haven't gotten to the more perfect union, and we fought a civil war over part of it. Mm-hmm. And people have been protesting, for hundreds of years that, things were not as they should be, given our ideals and how we should be moving toward them. So I think that's what makes us so special as a country.
Wait for it.
And the idea that you could turn the clock back and try to recreate a world that never was, dominated by, let's say it, white men of a certain persuaded by, let's say it, white men, a world that never was, dominated by, let's say it, white men of a certain persuasion, a certain religion, a certain point of view, a certain ideology. It's just doing such damage to what we should be aiming for. And we were on the path toward that. I mean, imperfectly, lots of, bumps along the way, but I agree with you.
So how dare we hearken back to a time when the people who developed the Constitution, the greatest governing document the planet's ever seen, they happened to wear powder wigs and were white. How dare that talking about returning to those ideals disrupts our progress to disrupting the Constitution, the greatest document the planet's ever seen. Hillary Clinton. Thank God she was never our president. Back with leftovers after this.
This is Wake Up Missouri.
look at our pile O prep and come up with some stuff that's good but hasn't gotten covered yet. Stephanie, what do you have?
We talked briefly about this earlier, but an important announcement that the United Airlines is returning to the Columbia Airport. They're going to have a ceremony, airport and city leaders, Thursday today in the afternoon at 1:30. They are going to have one daily flight to Denver and two daily flights to Chicago. And that's O'Hare. So increasing our options. Randy, you asked whether or not might help us as far as the pricing goes. And of course, I'm a little skeptical, but at the same time, it is a little bit of a supply and demand issue. And what we've been hearing from our friends at COU is that the demand's pretty high for those flights, even to Chicago. Most of the flights I've taken in recent months have been completely full. So maybe, opening up some more options, increasing the supply out of Columbia might, potentially drive some of those costs down. So I would looking forward to it.
Competition generally, if nothing else, if not prices, maybe they'll give out bigger bags of peanuts on the flight.
And of course, it just feels wrong to go to Dallas and then Denver or Chicago
Yes.
and then Denver. So having a direct flight. I remember during COVID when they first took away United, my sister and I were looking and she said, I really like to go hiking and go out to Colorado. I said, I'm not flying to Dallas to then fly to Denver.
It just seems
I said,
so
if
weird.
we have to fly to Dallas or Chicago, we're going someplace cool. And we ended up in Utah. But I love Colorado in the winter and in the summer. It's a beautiful place. So exciting new opportunity for those folks who like to fly out of mid-Missouri.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And there's a big ceremony today. I know Brian will be covering that, so that'll be fun. A program, though, tomorrow, Tom Ruck, who was the chair of the 50 years ago, MU Homecoming, he'll be in studio. He's done a lot of work honoring veterans. He's got a book out honoring veterans. And so talk about homecoming memories and talk with Tom. He'll be in studio tomorrow at 8:08. John, what do you have?
How about a birthday party for a snake? A real snake? Tiger Lily is the Missouri Department of Conservation's two-headed rat snake. And the 8-year-old snake lives at the Hills Conservation Center in Branson. And their birthday celebration is October 4th. The snake was found in Stone County in 2017, and she is now two-headed snake, 5 foot long.
Wow. What's her name?
Tiger Lily.
Tiger Lily.
No, thank you.
Drake, any comments on the two-headed snake? How often is this anomaly found? Any ideas?
I mean, I've never seen a two-headed snake in person, but I think that sounds like a great celebration we need to do here. October 8th, you said?
That's it. No,
Yep.
October 4th.
In-studio guest? What do you say,
In-studio
Steph?
guest. Let's do it. Let's do it.
I veto.
She's going to recuse herself at that point? Yeah. Snakes and spiders aren't your cup of tea? Or no, spiders are okay?
Not really. We've been covering heavily today, Randy. Let's get off of snakes for a minute. That's giving me the heebie-jeebies. We've been covering heavily today announcements about AI and various articles that we've been reading. It's a hot topic, but there's a new announcement as well. I think it's interesting. Microsoft has released its own AI product called Copilot. If you use Outlook or any of the Word products you've seen, they want you to get on their Copilot AI. Previously, they have been using OpenAI's ChatGPT to basically power Copilot. Now they have struck a new partnership with the OpenAI rival Anthropic, which their product, so many people use ChatGPT. Anthropic's product is commonly known as Claude. I've been using Claude. Claude. See, like the old man.
CLAUDE?
Correct. I've been using it. I think it's very good for writing, and it is now going to be integrated into Microsoft Copilot. So I'm excited because I think the product is really good. I use ChatGPT as well.
What is Gemini? Isn't that Microsoft?
That's Google.
Oh, that's Google. They're all techies, and they're all competing, which is going to make it get better faster. See you tomorrow on Wake Up Missouri Feel Good Friday.